Parables Podcast, Ejay, Cruz, and I am your host. Got another episode, and I got a legend in the building. My man, Andrew Cruz. Andrew Cruz in the building. No relation that we're aware of. Hey, but, if we are related, I'm not surprised because, he's legendary, and I'm trying to be a legend. You know what I mean?
Hey, I appreciate you, man.
Hey, man. Dude, so listen, man. I know you know about the podcast a little bit, but really, I like to bring on people here who I know are doing great things within their community, trying to do good things for the world. And I love everything that you're doing. So it was only, like we said, only a matter of time before I was going to have you on the podcast, man. So listen, let's try to get to know you a little bit. Again, our goal is for people to take things away from our conversation, and hopefully they could use it and apply it to their life and become the best version of them, right? Absolutely. So let's get to know you a little. Let's start off with your upbringing and everything leading up to where you are today, because when we had our conversation back at Sam's, shout out to Sam Bakhtiar, by the way, I got to learn a lot about you, and I was very intrigued by your thought process, about everything, the way you approach things, all the opportunities you seem to seize, and I want everybody to kind of get a glimpse of that with you. So again, let's start off with where you grew up, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so growing up, I would say that I had a fair amount of humble beginnings. My mother migrated from Costa Rica to the U.S., and so she met my dad here in California, and they got together. I was born, and then when I was about a year old, they separated, and my mother and I actually went back to Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. So from year, let's say two to 4, I grew up in Costa Rica, so my first language was Spanish. At the age of 4, we migrated back to the U.S. We settled in Costa Mesa, but really from there I bounced around a lot. Mm-hmm. Dad was in and out of my life. Okay. Never really lived together in one household, and that was let me see.
Siblings? Any siblings? But
no siblings.
No siblings. Okay.
No siblings. Only child. I pretty much grew up just mother and me. She played the superwoman role. Mm-hmm. Mother figure, father figure, phenomenal work ethic, extremely positive mental attitude all the time. And I definitely didn't grow up with a ton of money. That was for sure. When I finally settled into one city, it was actually Ontario. Mm-hmm. That was relatively close. But before then, it was like Costa Mesa, Las Vegas, Alhambra, and then by the age of 12, I finally settled in one spot and went to middle school and then high school locally here in Ontario. Mm-hmm. But I would say for me, it's just seeing all my friends, for the most part, they had the mom, dad living in a house. I grew up in townhouse, condo, single mom. And I definitely didn't have everything that everyone else had. Mm-hmm. And me going around seeing stuff, I always wanted more. Mm-hmm. I feel like I lacked direction. I grew up with I would say very little discipline. Mm-hmm. Because my mother was always out of the household. So it was like me running amok.
Yeah.
Like
kind of like a rebel, right? Because you didn't have the father figure, you didn't have a sibling, right?
Yeah.
You
said never really getting into big trouble. Mm-hmm. But never having a disciplinarian, because my mom was always going to work and doing what she had to do to set me up as best as she could. Mm-hmm. I know she grew up poor in Costa Rica, and she was able to provide more for me than what she had growing up. Mm-hmm. And I was very appreciative of that. And one of the big things or key parts is I didn't want to let her down. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in Ontario. It was in high school. It was time to figure out what I was going to do post high school. I was lazy at heart, lazy dude, and my mom just gave me the ultimatum: is you're either going to go to college or you're going to go to the military. Mm-hmm. You pick.
Were you into any sports in high school?
I played soccer.
Played soccer. Okay.
I played soccer in high school, and big procrastinator. I would say. Back then, if you gave me the opportunity or the option between, hey, there's this test that you have to study for, it's actually pretty important, or take a nap, I would always opt for the nap, right? That's where my level of discipline was. And it's like, I know
yeah.
how to do this. So my mom, who was from Costa Rica, Costa Rica is a sovereign nation. They don't have a military. She was one of the big pushers towards one or the other. She eventually had a military recruiter come to my house because I slacked and procrastinated on, one, looking into the military, two, doing the SATs or looking at colleges. So she took the extra step. She had a recruiter come out. It was actually an Army recruiter that came out to my house first. And the first things that came to light were like, oh, you get paid. They'll pay for school, even though I didn't care much for school at the moment.
Yeah.
But it still sounded sexy, right?
Yeah. He's like, well, the guy came to your house, right?
So it was they'll give you money, they'll pay for your school, they'll set you up with a job, and you can stand up on your own 2 feet. And at the time, I wanted to get into law enforcement when I was in high school. So I thought to myself, well, this is a very good option to go. If I don't want to go to college, I can have a military background to set me up for law enforcement.
Yeah.
And then I had a buddy of mine, his name is Matt. He had a cousin who was in the Marine Corps, and he was like, hey, man, I'm thinking about joining the military too. You wanna go check out the Marine Corps office with me? And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm down. It sounds good. And then so we go to the recruiting office in Upland, and the vibe of that office was just on a different level. Like, I don't know what it was, but there's like a level of cool where with the recruiters, the way the uniform looked.
Also, it was good. It was good.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
It was good.
Okay.
It was a good experience. I know, even though I don't know who else can pull off royal blue pants and a khaki shirt, but it definitely drew me in, and just everything about the culture, the organization, understanding that it was the most difficult branch of service. You earn the title United States Marine. The dudes in the office were cool. They were funny. Just sort of captivated me. And instead of going forward with the Army, I ended up going forward with the Marine Corps. And I've been in for coming up on 15 years now.
Wow.
And time's flown by. And it was definitely something that I needed in my life. And I was able to see that because I lacked self-discipline. And then I knew that in order to be set up for success in life, I needed to create some sort of discipline in my body.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to do it. And then this just seemed like the best way to go about it. Being in a controlled environment, they're going to make me do things. And it was a hell of an experience, I'll tell you that.
15 years, huh?
Yeah.
15 years. So I think it's safe to say that, your mom obviously just wanted what was best for you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you kind of, it's funny when you bring up that story about like this recruiting office. I almost make it seem like it was like a party, like, yo, come join the crew, you know what I mean? Be a part of this. But it sounds like, so it is true, because I've never been in the military, but it is true what they say, that military does bring a sense of responsibility, discipline, and it helps you kind of like shape who you are, right? And your identity and kind of how to take on life. Is that safe to say?
Most definitely. I feel like I was one of very few of my friends that began adulting at the age of 19, right, or 18, because for the most part, when you're in junior college, or if you're going to Cal State or UC, you go to class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and then you're rocking out or doing whatever during the week. Well, not I, because I was in the position where if I did party, I think there's a saying, if you're gonna party with the owls, or if you're going to hang out with the owls, you better be able to soar with the eagles. Right?
Man, I like that.
So if you're going to stay out late, you're going to have to be ready to roll at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I definitely wasn't partying as much as my counterparts that did not join the military, but it definitely instilled a sense of discipline and just having brilliance in the basics for that, yeah.
How many times did you serve, or how many, what do you call it?
Enlistments?
Yeah, enlistments, yeah.
So I've re-enlisted 3 times.
3 times.
So it's surprising, man. You'd think that a 4-year commitment at that time seemed like a drag. Like, oh man, I don't know if I want to commit 4 years of my life.
Yeah.
But it went by really quick.
Really?
Just like if you could reflect back on high school, it's like your freshman year just sort of drags out.
Yeah.
And then your sophomore year sort of picks up. And
I definitely
junior
agree. Yeah.
And then senior year, it's like, what am I going to do after senior year?
Next thing you know, you're applying for college
Yeah.
or doing whatever else you're going to do.
So similar to that, the first 3 years came and went. Now you're 12 months out. What are you going to do? You're going to get out? Are you going to re-enlist?
Mm-hmm.
What's your game plan? And at that time, I was stationed in North Carolina, and I was like, well, I haven't really figured out what I'm going to do. If I were to get out, I'd like to apply to a few police departments and see what's up.
Okay, so that was still in the your agenda.
It was still in the agenda. And then at the time, the Marine Corps was increasing its numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We were involved with Iraq, and they were giving out bonuses. The Marine Corps is not known for giving out bonuses, but they were giving out bonuses. So here I am, 22, and they're like, "Hey, if you want to stay in for another 4 years, we'll give you 30 racks." And I'm just like, "Yeah, let's do it."
You're like, "Say no more, fam.
Say no more. You have my attention."
Yeah, yeah. So another 4 years.
So I did another 4 years. I transferred from North Carolina down to Miramar. So I was coming back home. Felt amazing. And one of my buddies that I was there in North Carolina, his name is Zach. He was out here, and he was telling me that he had bought a house. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "That's pretty fucking cool, man. How'd you do that?" And he was like, "Well, I used the VA home loan." And I was like, "Huh." So I was like, all right. So I had that in my mind. I was like, I want to buy a house.
Yeah, yeah.
So I transferred from North Carolina to San Diego, and then I moved into an apartment with a 6-month lease down in Temecula with the intent of, I want to buy a house, man.
Yeah.
So
you're already adulting. You adult at such an early age. Now it's time to buy a crib, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then with me having grown up in an apartment, a condo, a townhouse throughout my life, I just envisioned like, I want a big fucking house.
Yeah.
Or as big as I can get, as much as I can get approved for, I'm gonna go for it. And I ended up buying a house. It was in Lake Elsinore. It was a new development, and I was a homeowner at the age of 23. Mm-hmm. It was like a 4-bedroom house, 2.5 bath, and I'm just like, well, this is a lot of house. Yeah. So for me, I was like, what could I do with these rooms? So then I put rooms on Craigslist. My mortgage was like $1,600. I started renting out rooms, $500 a pop, and then so I was making the military money, and then the roommates were paying the mortgage.
Nice.
I wish that my mindset was a little bit more financially literate, I guess.
At that time?
At that time.
Yeah.
Because
who doesn't, right?
Because now I was making a fair amount of cash from the dudes paying me rent and then the military income. But I was just living large. I was living large. I wasn't doing anything special with the money. But
Well, I mean, you got your first taste of kind of, your own place, almost like your freedom again. That's safe to say, right?
Yeah.
You came back, got your own place, and then you're making money, making some good money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you decided to re-enlist again.
Yeah, I decided to re-enlist again.
I mean, were you getting into other things besides just living large?
At that point, I wasn't into entrepreneurship yet. I hadn't really seen the light. I was just still focused on law enforcement. Mm-hmm. I didn't re-enlist. I extended my contract, and I came to the recruiting environment.
Okay.
So in the recruiting environment, they send you to a school. They teach you how to communicate better. Mm-hmm. The entire process of communicating, consultative selling, per se. And while I was in the recruiting environment, I excelled a lot. It was definitely challenging learning how to speak well or being able to convey a message, because I had been in the Marine Corps for, at that time, 7 years or so. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to be in the organization, but now to be placed in a position to where it's like, okay, now you have to go find people to bring into the organization. It was truly mentally exhausting trying to figure out how to speak to people, engage in conversation with random strangers, generate interest, get their information to essentially qualify them and then present to them, and then just, oh dear God, please join the Marine Corps, because I have to get people into our program. And
did you guys have like in the recruiting procedure in the military when you're in the recruiting? You have like a quota or anything like that, or is it just...
there is a quota.
Okay.
Yeah, there's bean counters up above. The Marine Corps is 185K large, and then in order to maintain that number, we have to recruit nationwide 33,000 people per year.
Wow.
In order to maintain that number. So then it's trickled down throughout the country, and essentially for one recruiter, if you can recruit 24 people in a 12-month period, you're a rock star.
Yeah.
The big difference between the military and the private sector is that in the military there's no commission, so there's no incentive to just crush it, right? It's really just the culture of the organization, the ethos, the mindset that you're expected to crush it.
Yeah.
Like, do your job, and the expectation is high. Do good. Do more. No one cares. Do more.
So it almost seemed like kind of what I'm getting. You kind of went through almost like different phases in your military career, because you enlisted, and then you got into the you started to find discipline and all that other good stuff. Then you got into the recruiting office, and now you're almost like a salesperson, almost, right? Because now we're talking about your recruiting. You have to meet a quota and things like that. You got to learn how to communicate effectively. Of course, that was something all new to you, right? Because that's kind of something you didn't learn while being enlisted, right? It was all new to you. And so how did you do? Did you have that party that they threw you when you got to recruiting office?
I did. It was a similar vibe. Because a lot of people, I would say, think that the military will change you, or you get brainwashed and this and that. But I feel like I'm the same exact dude that I was when I was 17.
Wow.
Personality-wise,
I
think now I'm a little bit more extroverted. I speak more with people that I have no idea who they are. It's easier to break the ice, and then but on top of that, just my priorities are just totally different.
Of course, you're more disciplined. Your priorities, you're more rational, more, you're smarter, I would imagine you feel. Yeah.
But the recruiting environment is just a very high pressure, high work tempo environment with a lot of deadlines and a lot of things that need to get accomplished, where I would say that in the private sector, it'd be compared to like a job of 2 or 3 different people.
Yeah.
Because I did get out of the Marine Corps for about 10 months.
Okay.
And I got a taste of B2B sales in the private sector. So I had gotten the experience, and I had gotten the experience of what it's like in sales, and being able to reflect back on how it was in Marine Corps recruiting. And mind you, when I got out, it was probably one of the scariest things ever, because my entire adult life was in the military organization, and I think a lot of people struggle with that transition out of the military and into the private sector, because we're just sort of like underneath a warm blanket.
You're like dialed in, right?
Dialed in, but there's a lot that the military actually does for its service members that the private sector doesn't give a shit about, right? So there's a lot of indirect compensation that is not taken into account when you're in the service. And one of the things that I realized, that service members, when they think about, like, let's say how much money they make, they take a look at what they receive on the 1st and on the 15th for the month, and then they multiply it by 12, and then that's what they're like, I make $40,000 a year. Yeah. But what they don't take into consideration is the medical, the dental, the 30 days of paid vacation for the year. Yeah. A lot of these nice benefits that are received that you don't necessarily see in your paycheck. Yeah. So it was definitely it was a challenging transition seeing that part. But then I also saw that in the recruiting environment, you're not only essentially the sales guy, but you also have to do the service after the sale. So like in a sales organization, you got sales, you have service, you have operations. Yeah. Well, the recruiter is a one-man circus. Because they recruit the individual, and then they have to take care of them, make sure that they're mentally and physically prepared to go to boot camp, and then they ship, and then still are held responsible to write them letters and make sure that they're doing well throughout the process.
Wow, it's almost like they're clients almost,
Yeah,
right?
they're like clients, but
Yeah.
it's really cool what the program is now compared to when I first joined, because when I first joined, it wasn't really like that. But there's a big opportunity to mentor these kids,
Yeah.
the lower the lower middle class, or just the more poverty stricken people who don't have that male role model. They'll look up to the recruiter as like a father figure or older
Yeah.
brother. So there's a lot of good that the recruiters out there do for the community and for the kids out there that definitely need that.
So it definitely, you'd say the recruiting part of your career definitely molded you probably into a leader.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And it was definitely the most professionally rewarding time of my service. Because my first 7 years, it was in aviation supply, so it was supply chain logistics, and it's like a FedEx and AutoZone for airplanes, and you just see your piece of the pie,
Yeah.
right? Pilot goes, they fly, they come back, something's wrong with the aircraft, the people troubleshoot, they order the parts, and then we just do our little piece of the pie. We deliver the part, or we take the part, we reorder it. You don't really see what your impact is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so in the recruiting environment, you meet the guy, you generate interest, you talk to them, they want to move forward in the Marine Corps, you mentor them throughout the delayed entry program, you see them leave and you see them come back, and it's like you have a direct impact on someone's life.
Definitely.
And it's done a lot of good for me in my life, so I'm a huge advocate for what the Marine Corps can do for you. From a mindset standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's really what's propelled me to where I'm at today.
What would you say is probably the biggest misconception when joining the military? Like, what's like, I don't know, like when maybe like potential recruits would come in, what's like the number one thing they would say that the most outrageous thing, like probably the most common thing that they would like their mindset on?
I would say death.
Death. Okay.
Death. I think a lot of people have this perception that you join the military, you have a high likelihood of dying, that you're gonna go away for 4 years, and I don't know if I can be separated from my family for 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, big dog. Like you look at the statistics and the amount of, let's say, deaths in combat areas is significally lower than, let's say, dying on the 91.
Yeah. Than traffic or smoking.
Yeah, there's so many different variables, and it's like they just because of, I would say, movies and media, and how the military is depicted. It's like, oh, military equals danger.
Yeah.
But just like any other organization, not everyone is infantry. Not everyone is in a combat-related role, because we have our IT people, we have our admin people, we have our mechanics for trucks and airplanes. And
there's different fields. There's different departments, right?
Different departments, different experiences. But that, I would say, that's one. And then the other one is like they feel like they're joining, and it's like prison. Like you're just you go away and then you come back, and it's like, no, man, there's a base in North County, San Diego. You can be stationed there, and all of our bases are by the beach.
Yeah.
But I know one thing that I had a hard time with in boot camp was really just being homesick. I had never been away from home longer than like a week or two, and I was a mama's boy. I grew up with my mom, so I think that was probably the most challenging piece. But being in boot camp with 60 other dudes who are in a similar boat, all you had were the bros to your left and to your right. Everyone's in the same situation, and then just remembering why you're there. And it's like we're there to earn the title United States Marine.
Yeah.
And so like there's a high sense of ego, not ego but pride, that is there, because we're there to serve a purpose, and it's to earn your title United States Marine. And how embarrassing would it be to go to boot camp and then come back early, and it's like, hey dude, I thought you were in the Marines. What are you doing here? And it's like, oh shit, this guy gave up.
Like, or I got dismissed or something like that. Yeah.
So, but I would say those are the two biggest things.
Yeah. You know, I just realized Memorial Day just passed, man. Memorial Day just passed. But anyway, before we start shining light on kind of everything you did, you know, after the military and the entrepreneurship, I want to say thank you for your service, you know, for one. And one thing I do want to ask for maybe the people out there, because one of the things that you mentioned was that one of the scariest parts was after coming back, you didn't know what to do. Is there, if you could give advice to somebody who's just coming back and just kind of lost, what would be that advice for them?
Transitioning out?
Yeah.
Set up a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Really think about what you want to do, and then reverse engineer what your end state goal is, and then take a look at how you need to get there. And ultimately, you want to set yourself up for success 12 months before the contract's over.
Mm-hmm. So start planning ahead while you're in service. Yeah.
Because that's when I got out and I served that time, I had some money in savings, but the money was depleting at first, because I had to have a ramp up period, and then I was making relatively the same money that I was in the military, but I just wasn't happy.
Mm-hmm.
The culture of I guess being in the private sector was totally different from the military, right? Because you walking into an office with cubicles, it's frowned upon if you're dropping F-bombs, and so it's like in the Marine Corps, it's a brotherhood. I can only assume it's like a fraternity.
Yeah.
In comparison to college, but you're there with your bros, and it's very, very little to no filter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine.
There's a lot of thick skin, and
yeah.
And a lot of those things are frowned upon in the private sector, because you might have harassment issues or whatever. Yeah. So I wasn't really happy in the private sector, and I saw the opportunity to go back to the recruiting environment. Mm-hmm. So I hopped on that train, and I came back to the recruiting environment. Mm-hmm. And when I came back, I really thought about how can I set myself up for success. Mm-hmm. So, and at that point, that's when I started looking at self-development, self-help. How can I become the best version of myself? Mm-hmm. And when I started getting into entrepreneurship, my thought was, well, I have 10 more years left in the Marine Corps. Let me start setting myself up for retirement, like post-service now. Yeah. And see what I can do, because the risk would be as little as it could, because I have the military to rely on. Mm-hmm. And I would say, in comparison to anyone out there watching, it's like, don't quit your main hustle for a side hustle until your side hustle's doing better than your main hustle. Mm-hmm. You know? So it's like one of those situations where I couldn't imagine saving up X amount of cash and then just leaving my main hustle for a side hustle that's not producing what my main hustle is producing. Yeah. You know? But I think that's like the military part of me being not as risky. Yeah. But I feel like I take a fair amount of calculated risks, more than a lot of my other buddies that are in the military. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would say definitely planning. Plan for it. Really think about it. Don't just glaze over the wave tops. Mm-hmm. Really dig deep into what the plan is and create actionable steps on how to set yourself up for success. Yeah. But network, meet people, and all that good stuff.
So you started to get into self-development. How do you think being in the military helped propelled and leveraged going into the self-development, sector, and going into entrepreneurship?
So one of the big things that is really pushed in the Marine Corps is small unit leadership, the leadership traits, leadership principles. And so a lot of that I encompassed in my core, but with discipline, me looking for solutions, being proactive, having initiative. Mm-hmm. So when I saw an opportunity, it's like, okay, well, what do I need to do to seize that opportunity? Well, you just got to show up and listen, learn, and then apply. And it's like, okay, cool. And at the time, we had a commanding officer. His name was Major Dollard. He's now Lieutenant Colonel Dollard. He was huge in self-development. And there's a gentleman out in Orange County. He was doing some business seminars called Titanium Success. And similar to like a Tony Robbins kind of thing. So that was my first exposure to anything like that. Yeah. And I attended the event, and it really just
opened your eyes.
Yeah, opened my eyes, got some creative juices flowing. and I attended I signed up for another business seminars put on by his name's Armand Sadehi. So shout out to him. He's on Instagram too. But I attended that event, and it really just got the juices flowing in regards to that. And yeah, it was really good.
Kind of gave you a different insight on like a different part of the world, right? Like what's available out there, the opportunities.
Yes, especially from an entrepreneurship standpoint. He was running X amount of companies. He was driving a Tesla, and I'm just like, man, the opportunity in making money, it's there. There's got to be a better way to do things.
Yeah.
There's got to be a better way. How can I make more money, and just me setting goals and figuring out the how on the journey. Because I feel like right now, some people may look at me and it's like, oh, he's crushing it, but I don't feel like I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just a normal dude, just like anyone else, just on a journey, in my chapter. And then I see, like, let's say a dude like Sam in his chapter, and I have a really good understanding that I can't compare myself to someone like Sam or Miguel who's further up in their careers or in their life, and it's really just comparing myself to me and what could I do to set myself up for success. But I did ask Sam one time, and I was like, Sam, what were you doing when you were 33, bro?
Yeah.
Because then for me, I was like, I can have a comparison of 33-year-old me versus 33-year-old him.
Yeah. And what did he say?
I think he was running his own business with the group training or the one-on-one training. And one thing that I had asked him, I was like, when did you make your first million? And he told me about a story that I think I want to say that it was when he was 40, and he pulled it all out cash, put it in a Louis Vuitton bag, and then he wanted to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, cool, I'm 33. I turned 40 in 7 years. Now I have an attainable goal. Like, I need to make my first million by the age of 40. Right?
I like that. Yeah. Hey, because some people use comparison as a catalyst for growth, right?
Yeah.
As a catalyst to like inspiration, motivation. But there's other people that use it and it literally drowns them, right?
Yeah.
They beat themselves up. They almost put their mental state in like this barrage of like, I don't know, debilitating, like, just mindset, because like, oh, must be nice with them, or why can't I be like that? But you started to look up to people and wanted to find out what they were doing, and you begin to understand that everybody's different. They have their own journey, right?
Yeah.
And it's good you look that way, because again, there's a lot of people out there who really just use comparing as a way of just hindering their own growth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so where did you first start your business? Because I know when we spoke, you're talking about how you were able to kind of seize the opportunities out there.
Yeah.
And when we spoke, I was like, dude, this guy is seizing everything out there.
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
like if someone were to knock on your door and they were just to present you with an opportunity, I feel like you'd be like dialed in and listening. You know what I mean? So when did you kind of like get your feet wet, and what was like your first taste of like the entrepreneurship, or like the first business you started to do?
The first business that I started to do was ATM business.
Okay, so how did you get into that?
So when I came to the recruiting environment, there's a dude. So in the military, it's like I show up to the recruiting office, and there's another dude on his way out who's going back to the operating forces. And so there's a guy that I was doing essentially a left seat, right seat with. I was taking over his high schools, and we developed a friendship, and I just kept in touch with the guy. And like 6 months or two years later, he was like, we were just having a conversation, and he was like, yeah, man, I put an ATM in a barber shop down here in San Clemente. And I was like, what? You put a ATM in a barber shop? He was like, yeah, it's cranking out like a G a month. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Or I was like, what do you mean? Tell me more. How does this work, bro? And he was like, yeah, I just, it's sort of like recruiting. We just make a list, go prospect, introduce yourself. Hey, this is who I am, what I do. And see if it's a good fit. And I was like, no shit. And I was like, okay, cool. And so
$1,000 a month, $1,000 a month. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, so that he had like a golden goose of ATMs, because the first ATM that I got was producing like $200 a month, and which was cool. The expectation was here, and then I was here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, this is more like a high yield savings account.
Yeah.
$200. All right. I was like, it'll make its money back eventually, and so. I wasn't too happy about that first one, but just talking to my friends, I'm like, yeah, I started this ATM business, this and that. And one of my buddies, he had reached out to me, and he was like, hey, I talked to this barbershop, and I was just telling him about you, and he was like, oh snap, I want an ATM. And he was like, here's his contact info. I was like, bet, I'm gonna hit him up. So then I hit him up, and he was like, look, I don't really care to make any money off this ATM. I just need something to where my clients can get money
and they could pay me.
So they can pay me, because I want to go away from Square or the merchant processing.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I was like, okay, yeah, just sign here. I can get an ATM for you here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And it was like a general service agreement that I had concocted, and at that point, I had the connection. I know where to buy the ATM, who does the processing. They deliver it to them. And the second ATM was cranking out like $600 a month. And I was like, oh, okay.
Like, let's go.
I need to go find me another one.
Yeah.
And so here in the next like 3 months, I found another location. That other location was cranking out like another $600.
Nice.
So now it's like there's 3 ATMs cranking out $1,200-$1,400 a month. Now we're in business. Yeah. I'm an entrepreneur. That's it. Wrap it up.
You're like, all right, time to retire. I'm out.
Yeah. So that's where, and then so like let's just say 6 to 8 months after that is when I went to the titanium thing, the business seminar.
Yeah.
And in that seminar we had to speak about, there are 3 types of people. There's the entrepreneur, the artist, and then the manager. So we went around the room, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and which one of the 3 you feel like you are. So I was like, easy. Hi, my name is Andrew. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in the military. I have an ATM business. And it makes like $1,500 a month. Entrepreneur, right?
You're like, that's the title, right?
Yeah. So at that point, he's like, well, you have 3 ATMs that crank out $1,200. I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's awesome, man. Why don't you have like 30 ATMs? And I was like, well, it's because if they crank out $1,500 a month, each one costs like $2,200, and I have to stuff like $2,000 in the machine. I need like $4,000 to sustain one. So then at that point,
you need more capital, basically. Right?
Yeah, more capital. So if I'm making $1,500 a month, I can add one new location every 4 to 5 months. And he was like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. So if I saw that 3 ATMs crank out $1,500 a month, I would do whatever it takes to figure out how to get 10, 20, 30, 50 ATMs.
How to scale it.
So that I can generate more revenue on a monthly basis. Yeah. I think you're more of a manager because of your military background, your structure, the way you just described the whole money situation. And it's not a bad thing, because there's a lot of other people in this room that would appreciate having someone that's structured like you. And I was like, all right.
You're like, sure.
Yeah, I'm like,
I'm the manager then.
And it was 6 months after that seminar, something triggered. I was like, why the fuck do I not have more ATMs?
So you still had 3?
I still had 3.
Okay.
And from there moving forward, the next 12 months, I added one new location every month for 12 months. And I went from 3 to 15 in that 12-month period. And then at that point, I figured out the business credit, how to crank out more money through there. But I had to figure out crafty ways on how to extract cash without doing cash advance. Yeah. There's like a third-party app where I was able to pay my mortgage with a credit card. So instead of paying the mortgage with my cash, I was able to stuff it into an ATM. Yeah. So at that point, I was sort of taking 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Yeah. You're taking more risk, it sounds like. Yeah. But in a smart way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm not paying for it. The ATM business is going to pay for itself, and we're golden.
Yeah.
But at one point I wasn't paying down the balance because I was paying, let's say, $500 on a $45,000 credit balance, and the interest was just eating it.
Yeah.
Right. So I was maintaining, and then meanwhile, with the 15 ATMs, I was generating, after paying the sites, anywhere from like $3,000 to $4,000 a month, and it was pretty cool. But I would make, let's say, $4,000. 500 of it would go to the credit card, and I wasn't eating. The other 3,500 would go into the vault cash, the money that circulates throughout the ATMs.
Yeah.
So it's like I wasn't blowing it on anything to where the money's going away because I purchased some new sneakers or whatever, but it wasn't accessible either.
Yeah.
So I was essentially working for free, and it was going good for the first 3 years. Mind you, before I started ATMs, I had gone to a buddy's wedding, and my buddy Kevin, he had a photo booth at his wedding, and that was also like my first introduction to a photo booth. And I was like, man, this is fucking cool. I've never seen anything like this. And I asked my buddy Kevin, I was like, bro, how much was this? I'm getting married next weekend. Maybe I want something like this too. And he was like, oh, we paid $800 for 4 hours. I was like, $800? And it sparked like, oh man, this doesn't seem like too hard. So I started doing some research into how much the photo booth unit cost, what's the ongoing expenditure, and I was like, that's not bad. But at that time, I wasn't ready to devote my weekends to doing the photo booth.
Yeah.
So that's where I went with the ATM route. So I was doing the ATM piece, and it was cool because I started out the ATM with no money. I swiped the first one on a credit card, and I went from, let's say, from nothing to 15 ATMs. And I have about $65K that circulates through all of that, and it was really just from applying the process.
Yeah.
Right, and not really paying myself. But from there, when I was talking to my buddy Thomas, he's the co-founder with Olive Drab with me, and he was telling me that his aunt was doing a photo booth rental company, and he was like, I'm thinking about doing one too. And I was like, really? I thought about doing that too at one point, but I moved forward with ATMs.
That's right. So you revisited.
Yeah, so we revisited the idea, and he was like, yeah, she crushed it. Last month, she generated like $8,000. I was like, $8,000? And for me, I was like, it was big money, you know?
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
And I was like, I'm going to do it too.
Yeah.
And so this was the photo booth guy just entered year 3 in business. And but I started doing the research. I picked out the photo booth that I wanted to buy first. When I started the ATM business, I wanted to be the ATM guy. But the name was already taken, so I went something more military. It was Fidelis ATM. But so when the photo booth rental thing came about, I was like, I already know what the name is, man. Like, the photo booth guy. So I got the domain, the pbguy.com, and just through the environment of the Marine Corps, I was just looked at the objective or the end state and just backward planned what needed to be done to be set up for success. Now I'm pioneering because I've never really done anything like this to where it's business to consumer kind of thing, and we really focused on, or I really, Thomas started a photo booth rental company. We started one at the same time, separate companies, but so we sort of like would always mastermind with each other, I guess. We'd bounce ideas off of each other. Hey, this is what I'm gonna do. What do you think? I think this and whatnot. So I think we helped each other propel, because in the first year, man, when I started the photo booth rental company, my expectation was low, right? I hadn't really fully committed to entrepreneurship, and I was expecting 2 to 4 events a month. I'd be a happy camper. I'm just looking to make $1,000 a month and to supplement my military income, because my focus was on the military. Yeah. And it just exceeded expectation. 2 to 4 events turned into 10 to 15 events in a month, and then I didn't. It was a hard time saying no to business. So then I would purchase more photo booths. So in that first year, I ran with 3 photo booths. I was one of the main dudes that went out there to the events, and it was like birthdays, corporate events, weddings. And in my first year, we did 232 events.
Wow.
And I think in my mind, I was thinking we were going to do like 20 events in a full year.
So it's funny. It's almost like the opposite of the ATM, because the ATM machine, when you first started, you were expecting like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when you did the photo booth, you're kind of like, okay, let's see. And then you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, and year 2, just wash, rinse, repeat. Just doing the exact same thing that we were doing in year 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up expanding more photo booths. We had 465 events in year 2, and we had a team of 6. Now coming into year 3, I have a team of 8, and I want to say we're on track for 600 events this year.
Wow.
And it's just like the photo booth rental industry, or that company, just really opened my eyes to the opportunity and how much cash flow is out there and how anyone can really crush it.
Yeah.
Because there's no secret sauce in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's just being professional with people, speaking to them, having attention to detail,
Providing the service that people need.
The experience as best as I can, training and developing my team members to have that same sort of thought process where the client experience is the most important. And not everything never fires hot. Like everything isn't always perfect, but it's always about making it right and just having good business practice.
And adjusting if you run into hiccups or speed bumps. But it's when you told me that, see, this is what I love about what you're doing.
Yeah.
A lot of people will dive into an industry, dive into a business, dive into a service, and they get discouraged because they look at something and they're like, man, so-and-so is killing it, or they're doing it, and it's like, I can't see myself do it. You, on the other hand, you had a different mentality. You saw it and were like, hey, wow, this guy's killing it, or this so-and-so is making a lot of money. I'm going to do it too. Because if they could do it, I could do it. You know what I mean? And again, we're talking about comparing again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You seize the opportunity again. And that's what I loved about what you're doing with the the ATM, Fidelis ATMs, right? And then also the PB guy. It's like you saw an opportunity and you put your foot in the door, and like you said, nothing was perfect. You're a regular guy. It didn't take rocket science, but you did have to plan it out accordingly, and now everything's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Damn, man, I love it, dude. So how many ATM machines do you have now, and then how many events? You said about 500 events, right? You're going to be on the third year?
Projecting for this year?
Yeah.
I want to say I'm projecting that we're going to hit 600 events this year.
Wow. And team of 6?
Team of 8.
Team of 8 now, right? From 6 to 8, right? And then are you still scaling your ATM business, or is it kind of just...
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
I'm just sustaining the ATMs.
Yeah.
Because it's been a very consistent cash flow year after year, so I just sustain that. A lot of it, I'm doing what I can while I'm in the military.
Yeah.
Because like everything, it's like the military is like
still in the military,
the main thing, and then everything else that I'm doing is like on the sides of the military.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of things that I'm juggling.
Side hustles.
The side hustles, family time, daughter time, working out, and it's like how can you do it? How can you maximize your time? And it's like now I wake up at 3:30 in the morning so that I can go to the gym from 4 to 6.
Yeah. And
it's like go to the gym from 4 to 6, leave the house by 6:30 so I can be in Costa Mesa by 8. Then I put in a day's work in Marine Corps recruiting, field some phone calls for the photo booth, see where the ATMs are at via the phone app, and just plan everything out. Try to get home by a respectable time so that I can spend like 2 hours with the wife and daughter.
Yeah.
And then just wash, rinse, repeat the next day. My wife Kelly, she's played a huge role inadvertently in the growth of the PB guy, because when I first started, I was very I'm still money hungry, but I was very money hungry in year 1 because I would rather not pay an employee or an attendant. I wanted to capture all of the money myself if I could. So what that did was it was setting me up to work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Taking time away from your family.
She wasn't having that.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just like,
smart lady.
Right.
Smart lady. She's like, I ain't no.
Yeah.
You coming home tonight.
Yeah. So she gave that pushback, and I'm just like, okay, well, what can I do to make more money, or make money and not have to do as much? So then we came to an agreement. I was going to do one event a week, no more than one. And then what that pushed me to do was get more photo booths.
Yeah.
So she was inadvertently pushing me to scale so that I can do less but still capture the same or more revenue. And then in year 3, now I don't really do anything other than field phone calls, because I've brought in some infrastructure where the person who creates the design that's going to print out, that's one team member.
Yeah.
The person who uploads all of the picture design and whatever's going to happen at the event, that's another team member. And then the other team members go out and do the actual event. So now it's like her pressure on me inadvertently pushed me to create a system to where I can do less or nothing other than field phone calls and talk to clients and make things right, make sure that everyone's happy. And yeah, so she's a big piece of the success of the PB guy, and I'm super fortunate to have her be that person. And she probably doesn't realize it. I tell her from time to time, but she doesn't realize how much she's assisted in the growth of that company. But I'm looking forward to the time when I'm not in the military anymore, because I'm really, like, if I wasn't in the military now, I'm in a position to where I'm not working in the business. I have time, or I would have time, to work on the business to see if I can make that larger, or take that money and then start something.
Yeah, something
that brings
another opportunity.
Larger, you know what I mean? It's all about trying to level up, and the PB guy has gotten to a certain level of easiness.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do I scale from here? Is there an opportunity to scale from here? Because being around guys like Sam, or seeing guys like Ali, who's on your show, or that I just watched the podcast, it's very inspirational to see or hear their stories, that they're super similar. For the most part, I see everyone had like a semi troubled youth, but flipped it around, and now they're just living large to a certain extent. And really the big takeaway for me that has been my why and my push is that I know that my mom gave more, or provided more for me as I was growing up than she had when she was growing up. And so I've always vowed mentally that I'm going to provide more for my daughter and my family than what I had growing up. Yeah. So right now I'm moving along that line with my expectation, but I just feel like, okay, I've gotten here, I see other people up here, and if they can do it, I can do it too. Absolutely. So it's like, what do I need to do in order to get there? Because I remember, for example, at one point I was making $7K a month, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna make $15K a month. And it's like, somehow, some way, I'm gonna see something, I'm gonna do some research, I'm gonna piece something together so that I can get to that $15K a month mark. Yeah. And it's like, then I get to the $15K a month mark, and someone introduces like, oh yeah, this opportunity makes $40, $50K a month, and I'm like, what? Yeah. So it's like, okay, how do I strategically position myself to make that opportunity a reality for me in order to do that? So it's like, now I'm in that journey on creating that and making that a reality. Yeah. To where I make that kind of money. It's like when I saw Sam at the gym with his 1%, I really identified with it, because damn, I was like, I want to be a 1%er. I want to be a part of the 1% of this nation. Yeah. And like I Googled it. I'm like, what does it take to be a 1% in America?
What did it say?
And it was like $455K a year.
Wow.
$455K a year, and it's like, okay, well, that's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm gonna shoot for, and it shakes out to like 40-ish K a month. So it's like, okay, well now it's how do I get there? Yeah. Right.
See you there, brother.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, let's go, baby. I want to talk about real quick before we dive into your supplement line. One, not only what I find very amusing about you, and I find it very admirable, is one, you did not only again seize these opportunities. Which, by the way, if you present Andrew with an opportunity and he says what, you know he's gonna dive in.
Right.
But if he says anything else, then nah, it's not good. You know what I mean? But anyway, going on all seriousness, one, you seize every opportunity, and then also, I don't know if you ever looked at it in this perspective, but both of the things that you provided was a service. Both of it was a service, and it grew organically through word of mouth, right? Because your first ATM was through your friend who talked to a barber who was like, "Oh, I need that."
Yeah.
And in the PB booth, I know it was word of mouth because that's what, especially when it comes to party services, that's word of mouth. That's by referral, right? So
Yelp helped out a little bit.
Huh?
Yelp.
Yeah, Yelp. Oh, shout out to Yelp too.
Yeah, you can go ahead and Yelp me.
Well, but Yelp is based off of reviews,
pure reviews.
Yeah, right.
Word of mouth.
Yeah. So I mean, again, those opportunities that you were able to seize, like you said, it's just I find that admirable. Like you found something that was definitely that worked, and now you're trying to scale it, or if not, you're trying to leverage, use that and leverage it to your next business, man. And I love it. And now that's Olive Drab Performance, right? Which, by the way, this it's June 1st. You're going to be at the Anaheim Fitness Expo. I know this episode's going to be live a few weeks after, but is this something that you always wanted to do? Get into the nutrition supplement industry, or?
You know what? It wasn't like a calling that I had.
Yeah.
Fitness, working out has been a huge piece of the culture in the Marine Corps, and taking supplements and working out was always a big piece. I had never worked out until I joined the military. It's funny, I saw the gym rats, the big swole dudes, and I was like, damn, I want to be more like you, man. Hey, can I go to the gym with you? And from there, I learned how to create programs for myself, but really just build up my strength. And then by building up strength came a certain level of self-confidence, the way you feel, the way you look. And it's like I fell in love with fitness in general. And just through living life and networking and talking to people, the idea of creating a pre-workout was something that became interesting. And it was my friend Thomas and I, we were talking about it. And it's like, well, how can we make this a business but also have purpose, right? And it's like we've both been in the military for 14, 15 years, and it's like, how can we give back to the veteran community?
Yeah.
Like we should do something like this, but keep in mind the veteran community and how can we tie this back in? So that's really how we came up with the name Olive Drab. Performance Olive Drab is the military green color, and we just slap performance on there. But Thomas is a combat vet. He was both in OIF and OEF, and he's a Purple Heart recipient ×2.
Wow.
So veteran rehabilitation was really, really close to his heart. Because he was a combat vet. I was in aviation supply, so still within the organization, but I had never seen direct combat like he has. And he had a friend who has Warrior Built Foundation, and they have vocational and rehabilitation programs for transitioning vets with PTSD, and they're really big in like the Baja racing circuit. I think that some of their sponsors are like Monster and whatever. Yeah. But so we partnered up with them, and a portion of the proceeds we give to Warrior Build to assist with their program and what they're doing. So we definitely have a purpose. We definitely want to have transparent formulas, the best quality that we can bring to the table. And that's really what's been the driving force. Having the military, I guess, phase, showing junior service members that by being in the military, you don't just get out and become a cop or security guy or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But that the platform of being in the military has really set us up for entrepreneurship and just applying the basic skills that we learn through day-to-day life in the military can turn into something huge if you want to become an entrepreneur, or if that's something that's of interest. It definitely helps out. So Olive Drop Performance right now, we have America's pre-workout, which is my favorite. I've
Not biased or anything, you know.
Not biased or anything, but I've been taking it since we manufactured it. We just came out with the whey isolate protein called the American Whey. So
I love it.
Play on words. And we just picked up some merch. We got some joggers that I'm wearing. We have the t-shirt. We have some cutoff shirts that we're gonna debut at the Fit Expo. We're pretty pumped about it. But yeah, right now we're just building the brand, creating its identity. Really focused on the veteran audience, the law enforcement audience, and then just any American that loves America.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it's America's pre-workout, the American Way, and this is a company that's on a journey. We're a 2-man team for the most part.
Wow.
And we're just doing what we do right now. We're just online, word of mouth, and I think once we're out of service, we'll have more time to figure out how to scale or just continue self-development and go along the way with that.
Dude, I love it, man. Dude, I'm excited for you. You're doing a lot of great things. I love that you guys are giving back to the community, the one that helped you guys set you up to what you guys are doing now. How much longer do you have for your service before you?
So right now I have my end of current contract is August of 2020.
Okay.
I submitted an early retirement. Typically, you have to do 20 years of service to be able to retire from the military. I submitted a request for early retirement. We'll see if Uncle Sam says yes. Right?
Yeah. Say yes, brother. We got a guy doing a lot of great things, man. Yeah.
So we'll see how that shakes out. But 2020 is going to be a big year. I would say both for my military chapter and then also for entrepreneurship and business. And just every year is the best year yet, man.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate it. Andrew Cruz on the Parables, man. I appreciate you for everything that you do. I love what you're doing. Let everybody know where they could find you if they want to reach out to you. Anybody who's probably looking for guidance, like you said, maybe outside of the military, trying to shed some light of what they could do in entrepreneurship, self-development. Where can they find you?
Yeah, most definitely. So I'm on Instagram, acruz909.
IE, let's go.
So that's my personal IG. But it's definitely an open platform for me. olivedropperformance.com is for if you're looking for some sups. thepbguy.com if you got a party, wedding, corporate event, whatever, we can definitely facilitate and give you some awesome service. But really, acruz909 on Instagram. Reach out, say what's up. I'm hoping that I see people at the Anaheim Fit Expo, even though it airs after.
Yeah. But, damn, multiple business, man. Just keep going and going. I appreciate you being on the Parables, guys. Listen, if you find value in this episode, do me a favor, share with somebody. And if you're also listening or watching, please tag me and Andrew and let us know what you think. Our goal is to spread this as much as possible because we know it could be of value to many people out there. Andrew, only legend, signed the canvas, man. I cannot wait for you to get on here. I appreciate you guys. Parables Podcast, the IE's in the building. Andrew Cruz, thank you guys so much. We are out.